They say love conquers all. But what happens when love faces a strong opponent, like a mother's fierce disapproval or a past filled with deep loss? This is my story. A story of a single mother who finds love again, only to realize that the road to happiness is paved with countless challenges. Join me as I navigate a whirlwind of emotions, confront harsh prejudice, and fight for my right to love, all while building a family full of hope, resilience, and strength. My name is Emma Brown, and I am a 40-year-old single mother and a graphic designer living in the busy city of New York. My world revolves around my delightful 10-year-old son, Sam. Even though it's just the two of us, the love and joy we share fills our small, cozy home with warmth and happiness. Few years ago, my life changed forever when my husband, David, was tragically taken from us in a car accident. That night was one that I will never forget. I was at the office, burning the midnight oil, preparing for a critical presentation. David had called me several times, but I was so deeply engrossed in my work that I didn't pick up. By the time I finally finished and returned home late at night, a police officer was waiting at my doorstep. "Ma'am, your husband has been in an accident," he said in a calm, steady voice. The moment those words left his mouth, my whole world collapsed. I can still remember that moment vividly, even after all these years. The pain of losing David has stayed with me, but I've marched forward, hand in hand with Sam, holding onto David's memory. Little Sam may not fully understand what it means to lose his father, but I promised myself I would always be there for him, loving him enough for both of us. "Hey, Mom, what's for dinner tonight?" Sam chirps as he drops his school backpack on the floor, just like he does every day after school. "What's your special request tonight?" I ask him with a tender smile, knowing already what his answer will be. "I want your famous mac and cheese," Sam exclaims, rushing to the kitchen and eagerly handing me an apron. As I cook, I cherish the moments we share in the kitchen, laughing, talking about his day at school, and hearing stories about his friends and favorite subjects. Seeing his unfiltered joy always lifts my spirits. After dinner, we settle in for the evening, either watching TV, playing board games, or reading stories together. It's our little nightly ritual, one that I treasure dearly. I kiss Sam on the forehead and whisper, "Sweet dreams, my little champ," as he drifts off to sleep. Once he's sound asleep, I get back to my design work. The late night hours spent immersed in creative projects, with a mug of coffee by my side, are priceless to me. Working from home allows me to balance my job and parenting duties. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. Weekends are our special time. Sam and I go on shopping trips, have picnics in the park, or simply build precious memories together. As a single mom, time and money can be tight, but nothing is more important to me than creating special moments with Sam. Life is far from easy, but every time I see Sam's radiant smile, I am reminded to keep pushing forward. I know David is watching over us, and with that faith, I wake up each day with resilience and hope. It was during one of our usual outings to the park that I first met Jake. Sam was playing on the swings, and I was sitting on a bench checking work emails. Suddenly, I looked up and noticed that Sam was about to fall off the swing. "Sam," I shouted as I rushed towards him. But before I could reach him, a man stepped in and caught him just in time. "Are you okay, buddy?" the man asked, gently helping Sam down from the swing. "Thank you so much." I hurried over, filled with relief. "It's nothing really. No scrapes, right?" the man said with a warm smile. He was in his early 30s, with a kind face and gentle features. "My name's Jake Miller," he introduced himself. I was admiring what an adorable son you have when I saw him start to slip off the swing. "I'm Emma Brown. I can't thank you enough," I repeated, feeling deeply grateful. "Thanks, mister," Sam chimed in, smiling up at him. "Any time, little guy," Jake said, winking at Sam. We ended up sitting on the park bench together, chatting for a while. Jake told me he was a lawyer who worked at a nearby office and had stopped by the park for a jog after work. I shared my story too, about being a single mom and working from home as a graphic designer. I also talked about losing David. Jake listened intently, nodding as I spoke, his eyes full of empathy. You're an incredibly strong woman, Emma. Balancing work and motherhood on your own is truly admirable, he said, his words making me feel warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. When I glanced at my watch, I realized it was already dusk. Oh my, it's getting late. We should head home, I said, standing up. Mia, I'd love to see you again, Jake said, his tone kind yet earnest. Maybe the three of us could have dinner together sometime. His invitation caught me off guard, but before I could respond, Sam chimed in with excitement. Yes, Mom. Let's go eat with him. Seeing Sam's enthusiasm, I smiled and agreed. A few days later, we had a lovely dinner at a local Italian restaurant. Jake brought Sam a small storybook, and he asked me thoughtful questions about my work and life. It all felt so natural, like we were a family. These dinner dates soon became a regular thing, and over time, Jake and I grew closer. With every caring gesture, he brought healing to my heart, and I began to feel happiness I thought I had lost forever. Then one special day, Jake took Sam and me to the zoo. As we watched Sam squeal with excitement at the lions, Jake gently took my hand in his and said, Emma, you fill my life with so much joy. I want to be by your side and Sam's side, today and always. Tears welled up in my eyes at his heartfelt confession. Oh, Jake, you make me happier than I ever thought I could be again, I whispered as I fell into his loving embrace. As my relationship with Jake blossomed, I gradually learned more about his family, especially his mother, Mary, whom he often spoke of with great respect and admiration. Mary was a retired professor from a prestigious university, an accomplished and intelligent woman whom Jake clearly adored. He visited her home regularly for family meals and always spoke highly of her. I'd love for you to meet my mother this Sunday, Jake suggested one evening over dinner. I've told her all about you, and she's eager to get to know you. Though I felt some nerves about meeting his mother, my love for Jake took priority, and I agreed to meet her. That weekend, Jake, Sam, and I went to Mary's house. When we rang the doorbell, an elegantly poised woman answered the door. Hello, Mrs. Miller. I'm Emma Brown. I greeted her warmly, offering her a gift box of gourmet treats. But Mary's expression remained stern, her response rather curt. Ah yes, you're Emma. Do come in, she said flatly, stepping aside for us to enter. We sat down in her pristine living room, with me sandwiched between Jake and Mary on the sofa. Mary's gaze was critical, and her brow furrowed as she eyed me carefully. Jake tells me you're a single mother and work from home as a designer. Is that correct? She asked, her tone sharp and judgmental. Yes, that's correct. I'm very fortunate to have a setup that allows me to balance my career and parenting, I replied brightly, trying to stay positive. Working from home? I wonder if that provides a stable income, Mary said pointedly, her tone laced with condescension. I certainly hope you're not relying on Jake. Mom, that's not fair. Emma is doing an amazing job raising Sam and supporting herself. Jake immediately came to my defense. Mary remained cold, her eyes drifting towards Sam. Grandma, will you play with me? Sam asked sweetly, hoping to engage her. But Mary's response was icy. I am not your grandmother, she said bluntly, turning her gaze away. The afternoon was a series of trials. Mary questioned me relentlessly about my background, my parenting style, and my education. Did you attend university? She asked. Raising a child alone can't be good for your son. I tried my best to answer her questions, but it felt like I was fighting a losing battle. Winning her approval seemed impossible. Even when Jake tried to interject, Mary's icy demeanor never wavered. Later that night, as Jake drove me home, I couldn't help but sigh. Jake, I'm so sorry. Your mother clearly doesn't approve of me. Emma, don't worry about her, Jake said, squeezing my hand. She'll come around eventually. I know she will. Though I managed to smile back at him, I couldn't shake the feeling that Mary's disapproval cast a dark shadow over our future. As my relationship with Jake grew more serious, we began to talk about marriage. However, Mary's opposition continued to loom as a significant obstacle. One evening, Jake invited me to dinner at a cozy restaurant, but something about his demeanor seemed off. After we were seated, Jake took my hands in his expression full of concern. Emma, when I'm with you, the whole world seems brighter. Spending my life with you gives me purpose, he said, his voice sincere. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Emma, will you marry me? I want to build a happy life with you, forever. Tears of joy filled my eyes, and I nodded, unable to contain my happiness. Yes, Jake. Yes, of course, I cried, falling into his arms. At that moment, we were the happiest couple in the world. But our joy was short-lived. The very next day, Jake called me, his voice weak and filled with tension. Emma, I told my mom about our engagement, he began, his words trailing off. My heart sank. She disapproves, doesn't she? I asked, already knowing the answer. Yes, she thinks you're not right for me. That, as a single mother with an unstable job, you're only after my money. I was stunned, hurt, and angry at Mary's harsh words. But more than that, I felt guilty for putting Jake in such a difficult position. Jake, I love you so much. But if your mother is so against us… Emma, I choose you, Jake said firmly, cutting me off. My mother will just have to accept us. I won't let her come between us. Jake's strength gave me the courage to move forward. That weekend, we went to see Mary again, determined to make her understand. We sat down in her living room, and Jake, with a serious expression, spoke to his mother. Mom, Emma is the woman I love. I'm going to marry her, and I need you to accept that, he said firmly. But Mary's response was cold and unforgiving. Jake, you're making a mistake. Emma is not good enough for you. Her background, her status as a single mother, it's all wrong. You deserve better. Her words cut through me like a knife. I tried to hold back the tears that were threatening to fall, but it was hard. Mrs. Miller, I love Jake with all my heart. Please, give us a chance, I pleaded. But Mary's icy gaze never softened. I will never approve of this marriage, she said firmly. You will ruin Jake's life, mark my words. That night, Jake held me close as I cried into his chest. Emma, I won't give up on us, he whispered softly. I'll convince my mother. I promise. With those words, I knew we had a long road ahead of us. Facing Mary's objections was going to take all the strength we had, but we were ready to walk that difficult path together. As our wedding day approached, the tension between Mary and us only grew worse. Every step of the way, she interfered. From the choice of my wedding gown to the guest list, Mary made it clear that she wanted control. One afternoon, while Jake and I were at the bridal boutique, picking out my dress, Mary barged in unannounced. That dress doesn't suit you at all, she said, her voice filled with disdain. Pick something more refined. I was taken aback by her sudden intrusion, and Jake immediately tried to reason with her. Mom, please let Emma choose the dress she wants, he said, trying to keep the peace. But Mary was having none of it. A wedding reflects the family's reputation, Jake. My input should be considered, she said sharply. In the end, I felt pressured into selecting a gown that met Mary's approval, though it wasn't the dress I had originally wanted. Jake squeezed my hand apologetically. Emma, I'm so sorry, he whispered. But no matter what you wear, you'll be the most beautiful bride. It wasn't just the dress, though. Every aspect of our wedding planning became a battleground, with Mary pushing her opinions on us. You need to be more selective with the invitations. It could affect Jake's career, she insisted. Choose a more prestigious venue. You can't get married at some shabby location. Her demands were far from the intimate and heartfelt celebration Jake and I had envisioned. Jake struggled under the weight of his mother's constant meddling, but he never stopped trying to protect me. Emma, let me handle my mother, he said one night as we sat together, exhausted from the day's events. I don't want you to have to deal with her anymore. No, Jake, I replied, taking his hand. We'll get through this together. I'm by your side. Amidst all the wedding chaos, We also started looking for our first home. Building a cozy family life was our dream, so we focused on neighborhoods that would be perfect for raising Sam and any future children we might have. After seeing several listings, we finally found the perfect house. A beautiful home with big, bright windows, a spacious living room, and a lovely yard where Sam could play. "Jake, this is it," I said excitedly, hugging him. "This is the home where we can raise Sam and watch him grow." Jake smiled warmly, sharing in my excitement. But predictably, when we showed the house to Mary, her reaction was less than enthusiastic. "This house is too small," she said with a disapproving frown. "There's no proper room for guests, and there's not enough space for more children." "But Mary, this house allows us to focus on our family's comfort," I said, trying to explain why it was perfect for us. "Tusk, Tev," she scoffed. "Of course, you'd pick a house like this. Unworthy of Jake. You should be looking for something that reflects his status." Her words bruised my spirit, once again making me feel inadequate. Jake tried to appease his mother, but she wouldn't budge. "You deserve better than this, Jake," she said sharply. "There are far more suitable women out there for you than Emma." Her remark made my blood boil. "Mrs. Miller, I intend to make Jake happy," I said firmly. "Please give us a chance." But Mary glared at me, her eyes hard and unyielding. "You'll never live up to my expectations," she said coldly. "Jake will see that sooner or later." Despite Mary's constant disapproval, Jake and I managed to push through and continue planning our future together. Somehow, we made it past her objections, and our wedding day arrived. It was a small, intimate ceremony, just as we had wanted. Sam made the sweetest ring bearer, looking every bit the little gentleman in his suit. As I walked down the aisle, my heart swelled with love and joy. This was the moment I had dreamed of for so long. Standing before our family and friends, Jake and I exchanged vows, tears brimming in our eyes. "Emma," Jake began, his voice thick with emotion, "meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me. I promise to love you, cherish you, and protect you for all my days." Through joyful tears, I replied, "Jake, I can't wait to walk through life with you. My love for you is everlasting." To the sound of cheers and applause from our loved ones, we embarked on our new journey as husband and wife. A few months into our married life, something wonderful happened. I discovered that I was pregnant. "Jake, I think I might be pregnant," I told him one morning, my heart racing with excitement. Jake's face lit up with joy. "Emma, that's the best news ever," he exclaimed, pulling me into a tight embrace. We quickly visited the doctor, who confirmed the pregnancy. "Congratulations," the doctor said, smiling. "You're 6 weeks along, and the baby is developing well." Jake placed his hand on my belly and whispered, "Hello, little one. I'm your daddy. Always remember that I love you more than anything in this world." We shared the happy news with Sam as well. "Sam, you're going to be a big brother," I said with a grin. "There's a baby on the way." Sam's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Yay, I can't wait to meet the baby," he shouted, jumping up and down with joy. Wanting to share the news with our loved ones, Jake called his mother. "Mom, Emma is pregnant," he said excitedly. "You're going to be a grandmother. Congratulations." But Mary's response was far from enthusiastic. "Are you sure she's pregnant?" she asked coldly. Jake was taken aback. "Mom, what do you mean?" "Of course, she's pregnant." The doctor confirmed it. "She must be trying to trap you," Mary said harshly. "I bet she's faking the pregnancy to get your money." Anger flashed across Jake's face. "Mom, that's not true. Emma loves me, and we're starting a family together." "You're being deceived, Jake," Mary replied, her voice full of disdain. "That woman is cunning. I can't believe you're falling for this." Jake hung up the phone in frustration. "Emma, I'm so sorry," he said, taking my hands in his. "My mother doesn't believe you're pregnant, but I know the truth. Done. To worry, we'll get through this." A few days later, while I was out shopping, I began to feel like someone was watching me. At first, I brushed it off, thinking it was just my imagination. But as the days went on, the feeling only grew stronger. Someone was definitely following me. Jake, I think I'm being followed. I confided in him one evening, my voice filled with unease. Jake's brow furrowed with concern. Emma, I've noticed it too. That's why I asked my friend John to investigate. He's a private detective. Just then, Jake's phone rang. It was John, his detective friend. Jake, I have some news about the investigation, John said. It turns out your mother has been having Emma followed. Jake was dumbfounded. What? My mother is having Emma followed. Yes, John confirmed. She hired someone to keep an eye on Emma's activities. Jake looked at me apologetically. Emma, I'm so sorry. I had no idea my mother would go this far. I was at a loss for words, my legs nearly giving out from under me. Why? I whispered. Why would she do this? I haven't done anything wrong. Jake pulled me into a tight embrace. What my mother did is unforgivable, he said softly. I won't let anyone hurt you. That evening, Jake confronted his mother. Mom, why did you have Emma followed? He asked, his voice full of anger. She's done nothing to deserve this. Mary remained defiant. I needed to verify if she was really pregnant, she said coldly. That woman can't be trusted. Your prejudice is tearing us apart, Jake said, his voice shaking with emotion. Emma is my wife and the mother of my child. You need to accept that. But Mary's icy gaze never wavered. I will never accept her, she said firmly. She'll ruin your life, Jake. Despite Mary's unrelenting disapproval, Jake and I still hoped to mend our relationship with her. As my pregnancy progressed smoothly into the second trimester, and with the baby's health looking good, we decided to invite Mary over for dinner. Emma, this is our chance to improve things with my mom, Jake said optimistically. Let's show her your kind heart. I nodded in agreement. You're right, Jake. I want to make things better for Sam and the baby. I wanted to have a peaceful family. That evening, we welcomed Mary into our home. I greeted her warmly at the door, smiling as I said, Thank you so much for coming, Mrs. Miller. Let's enjoy this dinner together. But Mary's expression remained stony. I'm sure you have something up your sleeve, she muttered as she stepped inside. Throughout the meal, Mary's interrogations continued. Are you really pregnant, Emma? She asked, her eyes narrowing. You barely look like you're showing. Fighting to stay composed, I replied, Yes, the baby is growing well. My bump isn't very noticeable yet, but everything is going fine. Mary said, her voice dripping with suspicion. I wonder if you're lying, trying to trick Jake into giving you money. Her words cut deep, but I forced myself to stay calm. Jake slammed his hand on the table, his voice filled with anger. Mom, stop it. Quit insulting Emma. The rest of the dinner passed in tense silence. By the end of it, I was emotionally drained. Jake, I'm going to step outside for some fresh air, I said, heading out to the backyard. As I stood by the pool, staring at the water, I heard Mary's footsteps behind me. Emma, I will never approve of you, she said coldly. You aren't good enough for Jake. I turned to face her, my voice pleading. Mrs. Miller, I love Jake with all my heart. Please accept us. Suddenly, Mary shoved me forcefully. I've had enough of your lies, she screamed, her voice filled with rage. The unexpected push sent me tumbling backward into the pool. The cold water swallowed me up, and as I struggled to stay conscious, my last thought was of the baby. I had to protect the baby. When I regained consciousness, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. The room was quiet, and as I slowly opened my eyes, I saw Jake sitting beside me. Emma, you're awake, he said softly, his eyes filled with relief. Where am I? I asked, my voice weak. You're in the ICU, Jake explained. My mom pushed you into the pool. You were unconscious, and the doctors had to perform an emergency C-section to save you and the baby. I gasped, my heart racing. The baby? Is the baby okay? Jake smiled gently and took my hand. The baby is safe. He's a healthy baby boy. Tears of relief streamed down my face. I want to see him, I whispered. Jake pressed the nurse call button, and a few minutes later, a nurse entered the room, pushing a small bassinet. "Here's your baby, Mrs. Brown," she said, smiling warmly. Jake lifted our baby boy from the bassinet and placed him in my arms. The moment I held him, I was overwhelmed with an indescribable feeling of love and joy. His tiny hand wrapped around my finger, and I whispered, "My precious baby, you've been so brave. Mommy is so glad you're safe." Jake leaned over and kissed the baby's forehead. "Hey, little guy. Daddy loves you so much," he said softly. The nurse smiled as she watched our emotional reunion. "Have you decided on a name for the baby yet?" she asked. Jake and I exchanged a glance and smiled. "Hope," I said. "His name is Hope." "That's a beautiful name," the nurse said with a smile. "Congratulations." As I held Hope in my arms, a sense of peace washed over me. But then I remembered Mary. "What about your mother?" I asked Jake, my voice trembling. Jake's expression darkened. "She's been arrested for attempted murder. She'll have to face trial." "I see," I said, my emotions swirling. "Right now, you and Hope are all that matters," Jake said, kissing my cheek. "We'll leave the rest to the courts." Mary's trial made headlines, and in court, she refused to admit any wrongdoing. "That woman is a liar. She only got pregnant to trap my son," she shouted, her voice filled with anger. But the truth was clear. Hope's existence couldn't be denied. With my testimony and the overwhelming evidence, Mary was found guilty. "The defendant is hereby sentenced to 5 years in prison," the judge declared, and I breathed a sigh of relief as Jake supported me out of the courtroom. We were immediately surrounded by reporters. "Mrs. Brown, how do you feel about the verdict?" one of them asked, shoving a microphone in my face. I stood tall, my voice firm. "I did what any mother would do. I protected my child. That's a parent's responsibility." Jake, holding Hope, added, "We will face the future together with hope in our hearts." A few months after the trial, Jake, Sam, Hope, and I settled into our happy new life. Jake was thriving in his career as a lawyer, and I was managing both my design business and parenting duties. Our family had faced so many hardships, but we had come out stronger on the other side. One day, Sam came running into the living room, his eyes wide with excitement. "Mom, Hope just walked," he shouted. I rushed to the living room and saw our 10-month-old son toddling around, taking his first wobbly steps. "Hope, you're walking," I exclaimed, scooping him up in my arms, tears of joy filling my eyes. Jake came home later that evening, and when I told him about Hope's first steps, he beamed with pride. "Good job, little man," he said, ruffling Hope's hair. "You'll be running marathons before we know it." We hugged our children tightly, knowing that we had built a strong, loving family, one filled with hope, resilience, and unwavering love. Despite everything we had been through, we had emerged victorious. Our bond as a family had only grown stronger. As I looked out the window and watched the sunlight streaming in, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, hand in hand. Because in the end, it was our love, our hope, and our family that would carry us through.